I'm pretty sure most of us have seen these videos where people are quitting, like I quit my 9 to 5, I quit my job without a plan, blah 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 blah, like so many people. And actually if you look at those people, it's not like there's a certain age limit, if I'm not wrong, like it's from maybe 23 or 22 to maybe 40. The reason I'm here today is I've quit before. I've quit my work before, and let me give you, like, I've quit 2 jobs before, and I'm gonna give you my reasons as to why I quit those jobs and as to why I came back to work. So most of you know where I come from. I come from the village. Me, my mom, my dad, and my brother, whom you guys have never seen. Professionally, I studied computer science, then I did masters in network communications. I'm going to tell you the reason why I did that masters. The reason is because I couldn't land a job after my undergraduate. I quit that job because I realized I was getting paid way less, like less, guys, than all my male colleagues. So where I work, I'm mostly the only lady. In all the places I've worked, I've always been the only lady in the office, in IT office. So I think there's this thing they have with women in these male-dominated jobs, that maybe your bosses think that you are not good enough. You have to prove yourself somehow. You have to work really, really hard so that they can believe that, oh, she can do this. So in that job I had, I couldn't wait for that boss to realize that I could do things that my male colleagues could do. So the day I realized, there's a way I realized that, guys, because I know salaries are confidential, but I realized that I was getting paid way less. And you know what I did? I came home. I did not go back to that work the next day. I did not. I received so many calls, so many text messages from my boss. I could read all of them and I'm like, no, because I'm this person. I was this person, actually even right now, but I don't know. I was that person who could not face to defend myself, I could not go to my boss and tell him, hey, you are paying me way less than everybody else. When I'm doing exactly what they are doing, you are assigning me projects that I'm completing just like everyone else, but I'm getting paid way less. I couldn't do that, and I thought, hey, I'm young, I'll definitely get another job and I'll go. I did not get another job immediately, so that is why I joined my master's to be busy. So later on in life, during my master's, almost completing my master's, I landed another job in Tanzania. So I quit the Tanzania job because of totally different reasons, not the payment, not my work thing, but it was more of religious, because when you find that your boss is getting into your life, forcing you to listen to their church things even at night when you're supposed to be sleeping, and they sent, it was just weird, guys. So I quit that job also. So I've quit before without plan. Those are things that I've done without plans. I've quit without plans, but I went back because I need the money. You know, you really need the money, because how are you going to survive? How are you going to pay your bills? My rent is waiting, electricity bills are waiting, garbage bills are waiting, my hair, I have to do my hair, I have to dress up, I have to do makeup, I have to buy chocolates, I have to buy flowers, you know, all those things, they are waiting. There's no way I was going to sit at home and wait for someone else to do all those things for me. All this time I've been coming across so many things, like I've come across a post on Instagram page that was saying, if you can never take a risk, you'll always end up working for someone who takes risks. Like you fear taking a risk, you will end up being a slave, because 9 to 5 is actually slavery, only that it's been extended to include all colors. Those are not my words, those are Charles Bukowski's words. And the reason why I've decided to do this is because I want to talk to you about Charles Bukowski. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. He was an author, poet, all those, a writer. So Charles was working in a post office, and there was this guy called Martin John. So John reached out to Charles because Charles could write, could do things when he was still at his post office workplace. He could write some things here and there. And Martin, who was a publisher, he could see that this guy had talent. So he reached out to him and asked him if he could quit his 9 to 5, and then he was going to be paying him £100 per month for the rest of his life. What do you think Charles did? He quit. He quit. He quit his job for those $100. It was $100 a month for the rest of his life. That was the offer he received from the publishing company. So he quit his job because he was going to be a writer, something he was so passionate about. He was going to be a writer. And on top of that, he was getting paid $100 a month for the rest of his life. So once he quit his job, he wrote his first book, Post Office. 15 years later, after he had written that book, he wrote a letter to John, who was his publisher. He wrote a letter to him. I'm going to read that letter to you. Hello, John. Thanks for the good letter. I do think it hurts sometimes to remember where you came from. You know the places where I came from. Even the people who try to write about it or make films about it, they don't get it right. They call it 9 to 5. It's never 9 to 5. There's no free lunch breaks at those places. In fact, at many of them, in order to keep your job, you don't take lunch. Then there's overtime, and the books never seem to get overtime right. And if you complain about that, there's another sucker ready to take your job. You know my old saying, slavery was never abolished. It was only extended to include all the colors. And what hurts is the steadily diminishing humanity of those fighting to hold jobs they don't want, but fear the alternative worse. People simply empty out. They are bodies with fearful and obedient minds. The color leaves the eye, the voice becomes ugly, and the body, the hair, the fingernails, the shoes, everything does. As a young man, I could not believe that people could give their lives over to those conditions. As an old man, I still cannot believe it. What do they do? What do they do it for? TV, an automobile on monthly payments, or children? Children who are just going to do the same things they did? Early on, when I was quite young and going from job to job, I was foolish enough to sometimes speak to my fellow workers. Hey, the boss can come in here at any moment and lay all of us off. Just like that. Don't you realize it? They will just look at me. I was posting something that they didn't want to enter their minds. Now in industry, there are vast layoffs. They are laid off by the hundreds of thousands and their faces are stunned. I put in 35 years. This is not right. I don't know what to do. They never pay the slaves enough so they can get free. Just enough so that they can stay alive and come back to work. I could see all these. Why couldn't they? I figured the park bench was just as good, or being a buffalo was just as good. Why not get there first before they put me there? Why wait? I just wrote in disgust against it all. It was a relief to get the shit out of my system. And now that I am here, the so-called professional writer, after giving the first 50 years away, I've found out that there are other disgusts beyond the system. I remember once working as a packer in this lighting fixture company. One of the packers suddenly said, "I'll never be free." One of the bosses was walking by, and he let out his delicious cackle of a laugh, enjoying the fact that this fellow was trapped for life. So the luck I finally had in getting out of those places, no matter how long it took, has given me a kind of joy, the jolly joy of the miracle. I now write from an old mind and an old body, long beyond the time when most men will ever think of continuing such a thing. But since I started so late, I owe it to myself to continue. And when the words begin to falter and I must be helped up the stairways and I can no longer tell a bluebird from a paperclip, I still feel that something in me is going to remember how I've come through the murder and the mess and the moil to at least a generous way to die. Not to have entirely wasted one's life seems to be a worthy accomplishment, if only for myself. This is that kind of letter or piece of writing that you read and you want to quit your 9 to 5. Because actually most of the things he's saying here are true, especially for me who is here in Africa. Everything this guy is saying is very true. There are many times I've wanted to quit my current job. So many times I've wanted to quit it. So life is really interesting. I also saw something about the unemployment rate here in Africa. In Kenya specifically, our unemployment rate is at 1.6%. No, 1.6 million. That is 6%. So that is 1.6 something million. Those are people who are currently looking for a job in 2024. And I think in South Africa, they have the highest number of unemployment. Like the unemployment rate in South Africa is way high, that I was like, whoa. So those are the kind of things I look at, and I appreciate what I have right now. Things might change in future. Things might be different. I might be finishing this video, then I quit my job the next minute. So things are bound to change. So quitting a job, I feel like there is this kind of pressure that someone gets, that it's too much, that you can no longer take. Because personally, I believe that there's no need of working your ass off, putting all your time in there, because time, you've given your time, that time can never be recovered. And then you get all this stress at work, and several years to come, you'll be nursing some diseases that come probably from this job, that all the savings you have are going to be treating your sickness. So if whatever you are going through is something that you're feeling you're getting overwhelmed, quit. I end this video here and rush to work before I'm fired, because I'd rather quit before getting fired.